Today I'll be walking you guys through a live demonstration of ClearStream RFID version 3.1. I'll talk a little bit about the new features of the software within this version, and also just give you kind of a basic overview of how ClearStream RFID works for those of you just getting started with the application. Before I get started today, I would like to just mention that anything that I trial in front of you today is available on our website at ClearStreamRFID.com. So if you go to our website and then go up to this demo RFID or the take a trial link up at the top right of the website here, you can go ahead and download ClearStream RFID. And the download allows you to install the application and run it in a trial mode for up to 30 days. So you can trial everything within the application, and you can go ahead and try using it with fixed RFID readers or using the virtual site survey tool, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. You can use that to test the application as well. But just to note, just go to our website and download the free trial. We also have some other information here on how to get started with ClearStream RFID and some of the more popular use cases for the application. We do have a new support forum available on ClearStream RFID. So if you're not already a member, we would encourage anyone to sign up to the support forum. And if you do have any questions that you'd like to post on our forum as well, go there and take a look. We also have a number of other content there that you guys can see. There's some videos, past videos and things like that that are set up to kind of learn the application. Okay, so I'll head back over to the PowerPoint here. First off, I'd just like to start about what is ClearStream RFID and how kind of does it work. Well, ClearStream RFID is a fixed RFID kind of mapping application. It allows you to hook up to fixed RFID readers out in the field on your Wi-Fi network or your LAN network, and map those fixed RFID readers into a pre-existing backend database, Excel spreadsheet, or a text file. So it's a really easy-to-use tool to map the tags that you're reading into that backend database system. It also gives you complete control over when and how the readers are actively scanning for tags. So you can do things like turn a reader on once a day and scan for a certain number of minutes, maybe to do a stock take of a closet or something like that. You can have a motion sensor hooked up to the reader so that the reader only turns on when there's motion maybe going in and out of a portal. So you're scanning for tags at some entranceway going within a portal that's kind of outfitted with RFID antennas. So there's no program involved in the application, and I'll kind of show you that in just a little bit here. You're really just kind of configuring how these readers are married up to your backend database. So it's a really easy-to-use tool to get a fixed RFID reader hooked up to a backend database. The databases that are supported are any database that has an ODBC driver available for things like Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, Microsoft Access, anything like that. And then you can also go to, in certain cases, Excel spreadsheets or text files. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in just a minute as well. Oops, bring that PowerPoint back up. To talk a little about the new features for 3.0, which we're very excited about, one thing we have added, the biggest feature of this release, is support for the Alien Reader protocol. So anyone that has Alien RFID readers, we previously supported only the models that had an LLRP server installed on the reader, and those were the Plus models, so the 9900 Plus. Any reader that didn't support LLRP would not work with ClearStream RFID. So with version 3.1, we added the ARP or Alien Reader Protocol support so that you can, using ClearStream, control any Alien RFID reader that is made by Alien. So you can go ahead and connect to any of the older readers or any of the newer ones that don't have that LLRP server installed on the reader from the manufacturer. So that's kind of the biggest feature of version 3.1. We also have some changes in how the antennas are configured. The antenna power is settable based on the manufacturer's specs now instead of a fixed range. So you can, on some readers, get the antenna read power down much lower, or in some cases higher than what you were able to do previously. We also worked on the activity monitor a little bit so that you can see the activity as tags are scanned. So if you're looking at that activity monitor within the application, which I'll bring up in just a little bit here, you can see when tags are read by a flashing green light on there, and you can see that information being displayed in a more readable way. So you can see when a reader is actively scanning tags. There's also been a lot of work done behind the scenes. This one isn't as obvious on the just looking at it through a demo like this, but we have put a lot of big performance improvements and memory usage improvements within ClearStream 3.1. So that's kind of a lot of work that we did behind the scenes to help improve the performance of the application. Okay, so with that, I'll jump over to ClearStream RFID and show you guys how this kind of works and how you get up and running with the application. One thing I would like to note, actually, before I get underway with the demo here, we will have a question and answer period at the end of the webinar. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them away in your question panel. And as always, if I don't get to them today, or if you think of them as you're actually trialing the software, please reach out to us with the contact information we put up on the screen at the end of the webinar. Okay, so with that, here is ClearStream RFID, and this is the first screen that you'll be presented with after you install the application. You'll see Profile 1. You'll have two tabs for the source and the destination, and down below you'll have the field mappings. Now the way this works is for each reader that you have out in the field, you would add a new sync process to this list here. So I have Process 1 and Process 2. Both of which are not currently configured to do anything. They just are in the default state and don't have the configuration set just yet. So let's say we want to go ahead and add a fixed RFID reader to our application and map it to, and in my case, I'm going to map it to a Microsoft Access database. So to do that, on the source side is where you're configuring the fixed RFID reader, and on the destination side is where you want the tag information to go every time a tag is scanned by that fixed RFID reader. So I'll start maybe on the destination side. Let's say we have a Microsoft Access database that we'd like to send tag information to every time a tag is scanned by that reader. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that database from this destination side. So I'm going to go ahead and select the type. I'm going to change it to ODBC, Open Database Connectivity. This is, again, any database that has an ODBC driver available. You can also, from this list, if you're going to Microsoft Excel, you would select it, or a text file if you wanted to sync or send the tag information to a text file, you can do that here. But for today's demo, I'm going to go ahead and select ODBC. When you do that, you'll be prompted with the configuration for your database and table. The first drop-down here is the database you'd like to send the tags to. Now, if you had something like an Oracle database, you would see that listed here, or a Microsoft SQL Server database, you'd see those listed here. And you would just go ahead and select that database and then enter the login information to connect to it. And then at the bottom here, you would select the table that you'd like to send the tags to. Now, the table dropdown doesn't only have to be, it's not only a table list, it's also a stored procedure or a views list here, so you can send it to those type of objects in your database as well. So for today, I'm going to go ahead and select the ClearStream RFID sample. Now, this is a pre-installed Microsoft Access database that comes with ClearStream. So if you guys wanted to go ahead and test exactly as I'm doing here today, you can go ahead and you'll see this option in your list after you install the application. So you would go ahead and select ClearStream RFID. When you do that, the table drop-down down below will be populated with all of the tables available within that database. So in my case here, I'm going to go ahead and select the RFID tag list from this drop-down. Okay, so right now, all that means is for my source, which I don't have configured yet, if there were tags being read, it's going to post those tags to this database table here, which is this Microsoft Access table. Okay, and now on the source side, you're going to want to go ahead and select the RFID option from this source list here. So I'm going to go ahead and select RFID. And when you do that, it's going to go ahead and start and fill out the field mappings down below. So the field mapping, the fields on the left are the fields of information that are collected by the fixed RFID reader. So these include things like the EPC memory bank on the tag ID memory bank, and other values such as a date timestamp, the antenna that read the tag, as well as a reader that read the tag as well. So all of that information is captured every time a tag is scanned and then sent to the destination based on these field mappings. So if you wanted to do something like only capture the EPC memory bank, you could go ahead and do that by removing the other field mappings here. So now when this reader scans a tag, it's only going to send the EPC field to the EPC field in this Microsoft Access database table here. For the demo today, I'm going to go ahead and do the defaults, which is all of these. Okay. Now, one thing you can see here is I have a pre-configured reader. I have this fixed RFID reader. It's at IP address 4.125 here. If you didn't configure your reader just yet, what you would do is go into this readers dialog and add the reader to your reader list. So I'm going to go ahead and actually remove this one so you can see that process. I'm going to delete this from here. Okay. So this is what it would appear to you if you didn't have a reader currently selected in your application. So what you'd want to do is go ahead and click Readers, go up to the Add button on this reader list form, and go ahead and click Add, and then select the manufacturer that you'd like to use based on the fixed RFID reader you have that you currently have hooked up to your network. So in my case here, I'm going to go ahead and select the Motorola option here. I do have a Motorola FX7500 hooked up. But if you were to select this Alien option here, that would connect to an Alien reader over the new Alien reader protocol. So you could connect to any Alien device. But today I'm going to go ahead and select Motorola. Okay, when you do that, it will add a single reader to your reader list. And at this point, you just have to tell the application where that reader is on your network. Now, you can manually type in the IP address and enter it that way, or you can click this Find button here, and the Find button will actually search through your network looking for any reader that's hooked up on that network and accessible, and populate it automatically within this configuration tool here. So it's a very easy way to find a reader, especially if you don't know the IP address. So that's the quickest and easiest way to get up and running with adding a reader. For now, I'm going to go ahead and enter that 4.125 reader again. Okay. When I do that, you'll see the reader ID gets populated on the form here. That means it made a successful connection to the reader, and it's really ready to go at this point. If you had additional readers that you wanted to add to your environment, you can go ahead and just click this Add button again, and maybe pick a different reader that you'd like to select, that you'd like to configure. Now you can see I have a second reader available here. This one happens to be Alien. You would just go ahead and do the Find process again and go ahead and continue the configuration in just the same way I did for the Motorola reader. So that's how you would kind of add all of the readers that you have out in your environment and then use them within your ClearStream configuration. So just to show you that really quickly, you can see I have two readers, Fixed RFID Reader 1 and Fixed RFID Reader 2. If I were to go ahead and close this dialog, you'll now see on the source side, I have those two readers available. So I can use either one of those readers to send the tag information to this RFID tag list on the right-hand side. If I wanted to go ahead and enter a second reader, I would just go ahead and set the configuration in just the same way I did the first sync process. So I'm going to go ahead and select RFID on the source side. I'll pick the ODBC database, the same one, on the destination side. But the only difference I'll have in this one is that I'll go ahead and select Reader 2 to send to my RFID tag list table. So now you can see from these two separate processes here, I have two different readers that are hooked up to the same database table. So that's how you would configure multiple readers. So if you had 1, 2, 3, or many more readers, you would configure them all on the reader list and then go ahead and marry them up to the destination on the right-hand side. Now, if I go ahead and I'll jump over to the Access table here so that you guys can see. This is the Microsoft Access database that's provided with the installer, and you can see here is the RFID tag list table. And at the moment, there's no RFID tags available within this table. It's completely empty. So that's how you guys would see it on an install after you install the application. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually start reading tags into that. Now, my fixed RFID reader here, which is this 4.125 reader, is set up currently for a continuous scan mode. And you can see that on the reader list configuration dialog here. So the continuous scan mode basically means when I start up this reader, it's always going to be actively scanning for RFID tags. And any tag that goes within the field of view of an antenna is going to be scanned and sent to our destination database table here. So just so you can see that in action, what I'm going to do is go ahead and save my project. Let me go ahead and save the project and then jump over to the Start-Stop form. When you do that, you'll see the single reader that I have configured here. If you had multiple readers, you'll see them all within this list. If I had that Alien reader again, which wasn't working for me because I didn't configure it, you would see that in the list here as well. And you can go ahead and power up all of the readers. Now this one here is set for a continuous scan mode. When I hit the Start Selected button, this will show the activity of that reader as it's scanning tags. Now I have tags sitting in front of that reader, and so this reader is actively capturing tag information and sending it to this database table here. So if I hit refresh on this database table, you can see all of the tags that it's capturing. So here it has 625. If I refresh it again, it'll calculate the new number of tags, 1,015. So you can see it's capturing all of that tag information and sending it to the destination. So I'll go ahead and stop that reader. So you can see very quickly there, I was able to take a fixed RFID reader, marry it up to this Microsoft Access table, run it in somewhat of a default state here, and I'll show you. I eventually read 1,263 individual tags, or this actually could be duplicates, but I read all those tags and dumped them into this database table. Now you can see the different fields of information that were collected. We have the EPC memory bank, the antenna name, which is the default right now for because we didn't set that to be anything, but it's antenna 1. You can see the signal strength that was returned by the tag. This is basically the power level that was read by the antenna when that tag passed within its field of view. We have a date timestamp of when the reader scanned that tag. And then we have things like the RFID reader name, which in this case is always fixed RFID reader 1 because we just have that one reader hooked up, as well as some other information here that's captured with the tag every time a tag is scanned by that antenna. Okay, so this is in pretty much a default state at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and clear out this database here and just talk a little bit about some of the other ways you can scan tags and send them to the database table here. So I'll go ahead and delete all of those. And I'm going to jump back over to the configuration form within ClearStream. Okay, so that, again, was just a very simple setup. We hooked up our fixed RFID reader here, which is this 4.125 reader, Motorola FX7500. We sent the tags to our sample database that was provided with the installer to this destination here, which is the RFID tag list. So every time I hit start, this reader is sending its tags that it picks up to this destination. The first thing that we can change here to maybe make this a little bit more interesting is that on the option side for the destination, here the default is the append type, post type. If you always want to scan a tag, even if it is a duplicate tag, so say tag 123 comes in range of an antenna multiple times, every time that tag 123 gets scanned, it's going to post a new record to the destination. If you wanted to keep track of that tag and maybe post it to the database 1, but then only update it with the most recent information, so let's say you had multiple readers out in the field, and you wanted to keep track of where that tag was last scanned, you can do that by switching this post type to be update existing and append if not found, and then change the update field to be the EPC. Now what this does here is every time this tag is, or a tag is scanned on the source, it's going to get sent to the destination, but rather than just appending it to the destination as a duplicate tag, it's going to look for that tag in the database first before it posts it. So imagine you have two RFID readers. One is in a check-in portal and one's a check-out portal. If that tag is scanned on the check-in portal, it's going to post to the destination with the flag that it was checked in. Later on, if that same tag is going through the checkout portal, it's going to be scanned by that checkout portal, and then it's going to update it in the database with that checked out flag. So when you go to the database, rather than seeing 100 tags of the same ID, you would only see one, and you'd see its current state. You would see that it was checked out or checked in based on the last reader that scanned that tag. Let's see if we can maybe go ahead and set something like that up. I'll just show you how that works. So we switched our destination type to be the update existing append if not found. On the source side, what we want to do is go ahead and give some names to these to the reader. So the reader here in this case is goes by the default name of fixed RFID reader 1. But let's say this reader we want to do a check-in reader. Okay, we'll do a check-in reader. I'll change that name there to be checked in. I'll leave it in continuous mode, and I'll go ahead and just save this project with the check-in flag. So now if I were to actually start this up, any tag that gets scanned will be posted to the database with that checked-in flag. Okay, so I'll let it run. If I go over to here, you can now see this reader name, which is capturing the tag information, is now checked in. So it's actually capturing that information based on the reader name. So I'll go ahead and stop that. Now what I'll do is actually go back to the configuration. I'm going to change this reader. Now you can imagine if we had two readers here, I'm going to change this to a checked out reader. And I'm going to just start it up again. And you'll see that these tags will be updated with the new information. Okay, so I'll just save that project, go back to start, stop. Now again, you can see all of these tags were scanned with the checked in. You'll also notice there's far less tags here. There's only 45. That's because, again, I did the update existing append if not found. Instead of just simply posting these 45 tags over and over again to the database because they're scanned constantly, it's now updating it in the database. So if I go back here and then start this up, as these tags are scanned and sent to the database, you should see some of their flags being posted or changed their status to now checked out. So you can see here, and the ones that have not yet been scanned are still checked in. So you can see how, based on that reader name, we're able to mark within the database what happened to that tag as it's going past the face of the antenna on that reader. Okay, let me go ahead and stop this again. Now, if you wanted to use a single reader for that same process, you also have the option of configuring antenna names. So some people, you use this as maybe the name would be, the name of the reader will be something like Stockroom 1. But maybe you have a couple of antennas hooked up on the portal going in and out of that stockroom. You can name the antennas as well. So you could do it, antenna 1 is checked in. Antenna 2 is checked out. So you also have the flexibility of naming the antenna. So a lot of people will use the name of the reader along with the name of the antennas that read that tag to capture that tag information with the pertinent information for what happened to the tag and update it to the database. So you have that control. Now maybe I'll talk about all the different features you have here for controlling these readers. So far today you saw that we have a continuous scan mode. That allows you, every time you hit start, the reader just powers up and starts scanning for tags. And it's always scanning those tags and sending them to the destination. You also have the option to do timed scanning. Timed scanning basically allows you to turn it on either daily at certain hours or at an interval of, say, you could do like once a day for 10 minutes. So if you wanted to do a stock take of a location, you could use an interval where you would power up that reader just for once a day, and then you have up to the day, you get an up to the day, inventory of that stock location when that reader runs. You also have the ability to power up the reader by a GPI, or general purpose input trigger. And this would allow you to, most of the readers have input and output ports. So if you hooked up to a button or a light sensor or a motion detector, something like that, up to an input on the reader, you would simply just change the scan mode to be GPI input, and then go ahead and put the port that the input is hooked onto. So you could have port 1, port 2, or so on. And then you put the duration of how long you want the scan to go. So if you wanted, say, to scan for 10 seconds, you would do a value of 10,000. And you could also name the port to, say, light sensor. So you know exactly how this reader started scanning for tags. So this means that if you had a light sensor hooked up to port 1 on the reader, when that light sensor is tripped, it's going to start the reader up for 10 seconds. So a lot of people use that for like a portal type scanning, where you don't want the reader always actively scanning for tags. You'd only like to do that when there's activity within that portal. So you can go ahead and configure the GPI trigger here. Down below, you have settings for your tags that you're actively reading. So you can, if you have non-standard RFID tags, you can specify some of the byte lengths here. I won't go into too much detail there, but you'd want to basically match that to the specs of your RFID tag. You can convert the EPC memory bank, which is that tag ID field, which you saw in the Microsoft Access table, which is this. You can convert that to an ASCII tag. So if you had a human readable value for that tag, you can convert it and then post it to the database rather than this big, long, ugly hex value here that you see in my database. But if you wanted to convert that to some kind of human readable form, you could do that by checking on this convert EPC to ASCII. You can do the same for the user memory bank. Now, for those of you who may not know, the RFID tags have a couple different memory banks available on them. There's the EPC memory bank, the tag ID memory bank, and then a user memory bank, and one reserved. But the tag ID and the user memory banks you can also scan using ClearStream, and to do that you would want to turn on the read all memory banks during scan option here. That would allow you to scan the user memory bank, and the user memory bank can sometimes contain other information that's not necessarily an identifier for the tag, but it could be something like last inspection date, maybe last inspected by, or something like that, some kind of, almost, again, another human readable value that's written to the tag, and then you can capture that information along with all of your scanned data into the database of your choice. So you can see I didn't have that turned on, so my tag ID field and my user field here are blank. But if you had those turned on, these would be populated with that data. On the antennas form, just to briefly go on this, you can name your antennas, so you can capture things like checked in and checked out based on the antenna that read the tag. You can change the power level of the antenna. So this is where you could bump the power up for further, longer range reading, or you can bump it down. And if you bumped it down to something lower, you can do almost a contact type scan. So if you don't want to read up to, say, a 30-foot range or something like that, and you really would like to narrow the field of where you're picking up tags, you can play with the power levels here of the antennas and adjust it to your environment and to what you need. The lowest level on most of the antennas do like a contact scan. So you could think of like a card, access card, where you wave it in front of a pad. It's similar to that. The tag would have to be very close to the antenna to be picked up. The GPO tab here, this one can get pretty fun if you're configuring some interesting things hooked up to these readers. Just as readers have the input ports, they also have output ports. And ClearStream allows you to control those output ports in many different ways. You can power up the output ports if something fails. You can power up the output ports if a tag is read or if a tag is posted to your destination. You can power them up if a tag is posted that was not supposed to be posted, to the destination. So you can do some type of like red alarm if a tag is in an area that it's not supposed to be. So you can have full control over those output ports and how long they are. Some of the things that we've tried here in our offices and some of our customers have used are the light stacks. So you can control which light is powered up based on the tags that are read by that reader, or some horns that you can power up to do some type of siren or alarm or something like that. But you have full control over that here. The last tab here, this is device-specific settings, so these won't be available for all the readers. But some of them, like the Motorola reader here, supports tag event reporting, which is interesting to allow you to control when you get tag events. By default, a tag event is basically when a tag is read. But if you wanted a tag event when it goes outside of the field of view of our antenna, you can control that here on Motorola readers, so that if a tag comes within the field of view of an antenna, you get an event. And then when it goes out of the field of view, you get an event. And you can also control it so that you don't get those events while it's sitting in front of the antenna. So people will use that to keep track of when a tag first comes into the antenna and when it goes out, and you only have those two records posted to your database. Okay? That's kind of how you control all of the readers in your environment. You have full control over here of when and how those readers are powered up, and scanning for tags and sending them to the destination on the right-hand side. One of the last configuration tools you have here is on the source. You can do tag filtering. So if you wanted to filter out tags that you weren't intending to read on the source side, you can go ahead and do that here. So maybe you wanted to say, I only want to scan tags where the tags start with, A or something like that. That would only scan the tags that maybe you're intending to scan within your environment. You're not picking up other tags that could potentially be on certain items that you may not want to scan. Okay, with that, that's kind of all of the stuff I wanted to talk about today as far as the fixed RFID reading and hooking up to an actual physical reader. I would like to just quickly jump into our virtual site survey tool. So For those of you who may not have the fixed RFID hardware available, we did introduce in version 3.0 actually a virtual site survey tool, which actually allows you to kind of design a layout of your environment and add fixed RFID readers to that environment and capture the tag information in just the same way that the real equipment would be doing, but in this virtual environment. So let me kind of set one of those up quickly. What I'm going to do here is actually delete, let me refresh this, and delete all of my data from the Access database. Okay, so here's the virtual site survey tool. This virtual site survey tool is where you would design your environment to start scanning tags in this virtual simulator here. So what you do is you basically add floor space to the environment. So let's say you wanted to create something you wanted to do as like a check-in, check-out scenario. What you can do is maybe drag out a little closet, maybe add a doorway into that closet, and then maybe some main area that you'd like to keep track of the tags that are coming in and out of this closet over here. So you can kind of label these things if you wanted to, just to kind of demo how all this stuff works. You can go ahead and label this. You can add the virtual readers to your environment here. So you can see I added a reader, and now you can go ahead and add antennas to this reader to keep track of the equipment going in and out of this closet. So I'll go ahead and add 2 antennas maybe. Okay, so I'll put this like this. So you can see here, you can kind of design, this is 2 antennas. They have coverage in and out of the virtual site survey tool here. And at this point, you can go ahead and add the RFID tag containers to the environment. Now, the tag containers are basically the items in your environment that you'd like to track. There's a couple different options you have for what they look like. The default is the box, but you can go ahead and change it to things like a pallet, an IT asset, and so on. So you can kind of change exactly what you're trying to scan, maybe a little folder if you wanted to do some type of file tracking. But you would just basically change it to what is really what you're trying to scan in your environment. You can change how many tags are on that particular piece of equipment. There's a tag count. By default, it would be 1. But you can go ahead and kind of enter as many as you'd like on that piece of equipment. So a pallet may have a large number of tags that are on that single pallet, and you wanted to scan all of them. You can go ahead and bump that number up in the tag count. But you can see here what's happening is I'm designing my environment and hooking all of these things up just as I maybe would in a actual setup with fixed RFID equipment. Now what you would do is at this point, you would jump over to the configuration tool. Let me slide that out of the way. And go back to the reader list. So I'll go ahead and add an additional process. We're going to select a source of RFID. We'll select a destination of ODBC. We'll select the same access database table, the RFID tag list. On the source side, now I'm not going to use the fixed RFID reader in this case, the Motorola FX7500. What I'm going to do is now actually, instead of selecting an actual manufacturer, the last one here is this emulated reader. So I'll go ahead and do the emulated reader. I will name the emulated reader Closet 1 based on that label that we added to it. And then we'll go ahead and add 2 antennas. I think antenna 1 is the checked out, and antenna 2 is the checked in. Okay, but you're really setting these up in just the same way you would set up an actual physical reader. You're just adding them to this list here. At this point, if you went to the source side, you'll see your emulated one just as you do the fixed RFID reader, the actual physical one. You would just go ahead and select that on the source side. The destination side, I have the RFID tag list. I have, I'm going to go ahead and do the update existing, append if not found, and I'm going to update based on that EPC value. And I'm going to save my project. Now you'll see I have 2 readers in my setup here. One is the physical FX7500. The other one is my virtual. When I hit start on this one, what you'll notice now is the lights came on the reader. The read area of these antennas went green, so these are now active. Anything that passes within this read area is going to be scanned by this antenna, which this is the checked in antenna, and this one I think is the checked out antenna. You can see that over here. So if I were to take this, and you can see how I have my database is empty at this point. If I were to take this palette and move it within that read area, you can see just as the physical reader has activity, so does the virtual one. Now I'll move it back outside of that. If I go over to my database and refresh it, you can see that this virtual tag was scanned with the checked in state because it was scanned by that antenna that was inside of the closet. And you can also see it captured the closet 1 information here because I changed that reader name. If I were then take that same item and move it all the way through, and as it goes past this checked out antenna, now if I go back to the database, you can see it's been updated with that information that it was checked out. And you can kind of see that sometimes these access databases refresh automatically for you. So if I move this down, so you can see checked out. And if I go back through this here and I come through the checked in, you can see here, if I click on access, it updates to that checked in. So you can see it's keeping track of where this palette is, whether it's inside of closet 1 or it's outside of closet 1 into this like warehouse floor area here. And this is a cool way to kind of demo the application. If you don't have fixed RFID readers available, you can go ahead and use that virtual site survey. And again, this here is also available within the trial, so you can go ahead and download this if you download the application from our software, from our website. Okay, so that's all I really wanted to show you guys today. I hope it gave you a good overview of the application. Here is our contact information. We encourage everyone to take a look at the software if you haven't already downloaded it from our website and go ahead and trial everything that I showed you today. And if you have any questions at that point, please feel free to reach out to us with these with the contact information up on our website. So up on the slide here, I should say. But also, if you have any feedback on these webinars, anything you'd like to see in the future, or maybe clarified more in any future webinar that we have here at PTS, please, again, reach out to us. We always appreciate that feedback. But with that, as long as there's no other questions, I appreciate everyone hopping on the call with us today, and we look forward to seeing you guys all in the future. All right, thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.